Maurice?
Good morning.
How's my sound level?
Sounds good.
Good, thank you. Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Liz, it's 9:30. We can get started.
Morning, thank you. My name is Liz Kukla. I'm the Secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm going to read the preamble for you this morning, this Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023. In compliance with notification requirements of the city's open meeting law in section 101.021 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Please note that call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube for public view. We provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak in our particular case via our website and email. All requests to speak in a particular matter have been considered. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Back to you, Madam Chair. I think you're muted.
And welcome to the new year. Today we have 4 board members present. So that means to all the applicants that are present, you would need a vote of 3 people, 3 affirmative votes to pass your variance appeal. And so with that in mind, if anyone wishes to postpone to another date when we have a full complement of board members, that is an option for you when we get to your case. I see that we have Councilman Starr with us. So,
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, sorry to interrupt. We should probably call the roll just for the record.
Yes, for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Roca?
Present.
Ms. Holzer?
Present.
Ms. Brown?
Present.
Ms. Bate?
Present.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Back to you.
Thank you. All right, so I see that we have Councilman Starr with us. It appears that he is the only council person present. So to Maurice and Ms. Holzer, we'll begin with his case. Actually, Liz, do we, I don't believe we have any postponements, do we? Or withdrawals?
No postponements or withdrawals.
Okay, so we'll move to calendar number 22-220, please.
Great, thank you, and Happy New Year, everyone. Our first case is calendar number 22-220. This is at 6100 Truscott Avenue. Mad Prop LLC proposes to install 513 linear feet of 10-foot high electrified security fence. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances, as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you. Good morning and Happy New Year to all. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. Reply, I do. State your name and your address, please.
I do. Marilyn Moshinsky, Slavic Village Development, 5620 Broadway Avenue, Cleveland.
Councilman Starr, we also need you to swear in, and as well as the appellant for this case.
Hi, this is Councilman Starr, Ward 5 Councilman, and I wanted to make sure 601 Lakeside Avenue.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have an appellant present?
I do not see one, Madam Chair.
All right.
If you'd like, I could give a call if we could postpone it.
We'll move on to the next case if
Yeah,
you
to
want
the
to
next
try and
one.
get a hold of them. Councilman Starr, the appellant's not present, so we're going to try and reach them. And in the meantime, we're going to move on to the next case, which would be 22-217 at the top of our agenda. Ms. Holzer?
Thank you.
All right, we have calendar number 22-217. This is at 2267 West 30th Street. Burgess LLC owner proposes to erect a two-story frame single-family residence with attached garage in a B1 two-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 3. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. Reply, I do. State your name and your address, please.
I do. Paul Began, Began Architectural Design, 15703 Madison.
I do. Nate Law, Ohio City Inc., 3308 Lorraine Avenue.
Nate, you need to state your name, please.
Nate Law, 3308 Lorraine Avenue.
Thank you. Is that everyone? Apparently so.
Mr. Began, you're representing your client?
Yes.
Got it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We'll move on to history of the property.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. In our Records Administration Office, we found that in 1963, a permit was issued to convert to a two-family dwelling on site. And Madam Chair, in the more recent history, we see that there are interior, exterior alterations. And then in 2017, a permit was issued to demolish a two-story frame, two-dwelling unit on the site. And that's all that I have for you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kukla. Could we have the legal standard, please?
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting area variances from the accessory uses, required rear yard, and maximum gross floor area regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you for that. All right, Mr. Began, do we have a letter from your client stating that it's okay for you to represent them?
Yes, we do. We did submit that with our application.
Awesome, great, thanks. All right, would you like to go ahead and tell us what you'd like to do?
Sure. This is an infill house on West 30th, south of Monroe. It is one of the lots that does have access to a rear alley, which is called York Court. Basically, a single-family house that we're putting in here. As you saw from the history picture that Ms. Kukla had put up, and also from the site plan that's before you right now, from York Court up to the main level of the yard is about 16 inches. So we don't have direct access on the court. As such, we need a little bit of room to have the garage have some slope up to the garage from the court to get up to the level of the yard. This is very similar to the house next door that was recently constructed. They did almost exactly the same thing. Attach the garage so that they can access the slope from the York Court up to the garage. So the look on this picture right now, the lower right-hand picture, you can kind of see there, we're proposing to do exactly the same type of deal. So that's why the rear yard, we're showing 18 feet is because, that's what we have, at least the least amount of space we need to get up to the garage there, instead of having the garage separated from the house and being right on the alley.
And what's the grade of that slope?
It's less than 20%. Again, it's 16 inches. So, 16 inches in 18 feet, whatever that math turns out to be. It's too early this morning.
Exactly. But that 16 inches and that amount of footage, we can
Yes.
we can visualize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, we're about in alignment with the adjacent house next door as well. Recently constructed.
Okay. So we'll go to Nate from Ohio City.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have we don't usually take stances on single-family houses. I was just simply here to request that the applicants agree to meeting with Ohio City, as we've tried to set up a meeting a few times to no luck. So it's our understanding that they have bigger plans for the area with a couple of single-family houses as scatter site projects. So we just ask that they commit to meeting with us so we can better understand their projects.
And Mr. Began, why is this meeting not happened yet?
We have, this is with Matt Burgess, who has been a developer in and around this area for the last 20 years. He's very well and familiar with Ohio City, and I think he's waiting until he has some path forward on multiple projects before we come in to present all of them. I can't know that for sure. He is aware, and I have communicated to him Nate's in Ohio City's request to have those public meetings. So I think Nate and I are on the same page, and we're both waiting on the owner to process that meeting.
Okay. All right. City Planning, would you like to weigh in on this?
Sure, Maurice Rulins, City Planning. Just looking at the variances, we have some area variances here. The only question I had was about the garbage cans being 6 inches off the property line. Paul, is there any way we could move it to the other side?
Yeah,
is that a paved pad?
The garbage. We could relocate the garbage cans. I don't think that is an issue. Actually, that in 20 some years of coming to zoning meetings, I've never had that one on the list before, so that's a new one to me.
It is a new one.
I haven't seen that one before either, but I do understand, if it's too close to the neighbor, there could be some undesirable odors coming from the garbage can, and so it might be a good idea to move that to the other side.
We can definitely relocate the garbage cans.
Yeah. Everything else on here are standard variances that we are normally granting, consistent with policies from the city and the City Planning Commission. As Mr. Beacon pointed out, this really mirrors what they did on what was done on the adjacent house with the rear, and the reason why they do have the reduced rear yard is because they have an attached garage, and I think having the rear being easily accessible from the court kind of makes it a moot point for most of the reasons of why you want a larger rear yard is for fire access, safety access, which would be easily accessible from the rear. And then the maximum gross floor area is also something that we grant regularly, mainly because of the extra stories, which is why the square footage is higher. So we would recommend approval of this.
Great. To my board, any questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I do have two questions.
Go ahead.
One, is this home for sale or for rental?
It's going to be for sale.
And then number two, I see it now from this illustration. I was going to ask if there's any outdoor or patio space above the garage, and it looks like there is.
Yes, there is.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Certainly. Anyone else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion, board.
Madam Chair, Board Member Roca moves to approve the project and the
Thank you.
variances.
Can I have a second?
Oh, go ahead.
Member Brown, I second.
Okay, Ms. Kukla, would you like to call the vote?
Sure. Ms. Holzer,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Roca,
Yes.
Ms. Vaith.
Yes.
Calendar number 22-217 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and we will send the appellant a letter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
You as well. Ms. Kukla, did we have any success reaching the appellant for 22-220?
Yes, we have contacted her, and she said she's on the line. So if she's a call-in user, to unmute yourself, please press star and 6.
Okay. Do we see any signs of her being present?
Hold on
Not
one
here.
moment.
Not hearing her.
Oh, the appellant is Michael Peet, according to our record. I still don't see that name.
No.
Michael Pate.
Pate, there's a Michael Pate. Sir, I'd like to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply I do, state your name and your address, please.
My name is Michael Pate. My address is 315 South Maple Street, Columbia, South Carolina. I don't know if this is mine or not. This is the security fence?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
This
I'm
is
sorry, I'm on the wrong case. I'll bring that up in a second.
Okay, I was looking at it. Didn't look like my case.
You're
This
doing a
is at-
tattoo parlor?
This is at 6100 Truscan Avenue, sir. Is that
There
your
you go.
property?
Thank you.
All right.
Yep.
And your
Okay,
last
Madam
name?
Chair.
Your last name, please, again?
Is Pate, P-A-T-E.
Thank you. All
And
right.
Councilman Starr, are you still here?
Yes, I'm still here.
All right.
Okay,
Madam
great.
Chair.
Thank you. Okay, history of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. In our records here at the Board of Zoning Appeals, we found that in calendar number 17-142, a variance was granted to use property for storage and recovery of various construction materials, including bricks, wood, glass, metals, clay, sand, etc. This variance was granted without conditions. The comments that were made at the time is that the appellant's property is more than 500 feet away from an actual residential structure. He stated that the dust will be controlled by a water truck that will be maintained on site. And then there's another variance, Madam Chair, in calendar 18-175. This board granted a variance to install a 10-foot tall battery-powered low voltage perimeter security system fence to be located inside of the existing chain link fence around a parcel that is 327,061 square feet. Madam Chair, this variance was also granted without any conditions. And I believe that is the most pertinent information for you this morning. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to the legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting an area variance from the fencing regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Pate, would you like to tell us what you'd like to do, please?
Yes, ma'am. We've been contacted by this customer, and what they'd like us to do is to install our alarm system on the inside of the existing perimeter fence. Basically, this alarm system works this way. It is powered by a 12-volt battery. That battery is maintained, its power is maintained by a solar array. So it's got a couple of solar panels up there that keep the battery charged. That battery goes into an energizer, and that energizer gets that battery voltage up to about 6,000 to 9,000 volts. And once it is loaded, it takes about 1.1 seconds for that to happen. It releases that power down the interior line back to the alarm panel. Alarm panel is looking for a nice clean return. If it does not get a nice clean return, it starts a countdown. Countdown lasts approximately 5.5 seconds. If the return voltage is not high enough, it'll set the alarm off audibly on the site and silently back to our alarm specialist, and we go through a call list. So we'll go through number 1 on the call list, number 2, number 3, number 4. What we're looking for is someone to verify the alarm. We also have cameras associated with these devices, so whoever we call at 2 o'clock in the morning will be able to pull up the cameras for that existing site and those existing lines, fence lines, and look to see what happened. They can either say, hey, there's a big tree on the corner, had a nasty snowstorm, took the tree out and all the fence line, destroyed the alarm, let's button it up and go back to bed, guys. Or I got 5 guys in a flatbed truck, cut a hole in my fence, they're robbing me blind. Please call the local police department. That's a verified alarm. The police love verified alarms. They know where to go, what to expect. So that's what we do. We guard these properties to keep the police from going in there and keep everyone in there safe.
Okay, seems like a thorough explanation. Any questions or comments from my board?
Yes, Madam Chair, Board Member Roca has a question. Is the fence solid or open?
Councilman, I'm sorry, it's open. So in other words, the suspended wires are separated about 4 inches apart until about 4 feet. After that, they go to 8 inches apart. You can see it here in this illustration. So it's open. It's very difficult to see. It is a smaller wire diameter than the chain link it's behind. And really the only way you can tell the fence is there, the alarmed apparatus, is because we have to sign it. So on the bottom left-hand corner of the sheet he's got up now, you'll see the sign that says caution, don't touch this fence. There it is right there, warning electric fence. That is required to be placed there by the standard we operate on. So these devices are tested and labeled just like your lamp in your kitchen or your bedroom, just like your phone. There's always an electrical standard that goes with it. You have to test and label to make sure it's a safe and reliable product, and we do that. The standard is, for your edification, you probably don't need to memorize this, is the ANSI standard 60335-2-76. And if anyone wants a copy of it, I'll be glad to send it to you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
So thank you, Member Roca. That was one of my questions. The other one is I have a concern about the lack of maintenance around the sidewalk from the pictures that we've seen. And now I have a question about how the grass or vegetation gets maintained between the chain link fence and the new fence on the inside.
That's a great question. First of all, we have nothing to do with the sidewalk. We're installing behind the existing fence.
1 second, sir. I'm raising it because you're here on behalf of your client, who is
That's true.
the appellant Who does?
The only thing I'm doing is installing an alarm system. So I have nothing to do with the sidewalk, me personally, and installing the alarm system. However, the vegetation is of utmost importance to me and my company and my customer, who is your client or your constituent here, because it will not work with all that vegetation up there. So all that'll be taken down. We maintain a clean line, fence line, because if any vegetation grows up on there, it'll grab a hold of that fence and it'll ground it out and it won't work. I live in South Carolina. In the summertime, when it rains here, things can grow, a foot a day. And we have to be diligent to keep those fence lines clean to make sure that we are in operational mode of protecting this property.
And so how will that happen operationally?
Well, when we go in for the installation, we'll tear everything that's out, all the vegetation that's up there, it'll come down. We'll go ahead and install our device inside the existing fence line, and we maintain that fence line to keep it clean, either by hand, or most likely it'll be done with some sort of herbicide to keep everything down there.
And your company will do that?
Absolutely. And the reason we do, ma'am, is that if we don't, it's not going to work. And if it's not working, I don't get paid. So, we get paid on a monthly service fee, just like any other alarm company. And if our alarm is not doing its job, we're not going to get paid. So we make sure that our device is working properly in order to get paid.
Thank
And
you.
to keep it working. Thank you.
Okay, I believe we have Marilyn from Slavic Village, CDC.
Yes, hi, thanks for letting me speak. We've not met with this appellant and nor this company yet to discuss on the residential side of this whole thing. I'm concerned as you are with the fencing, the way it looks right now, the wall. We're looking at doing some development along with residents on the way, and they'll be passing this along the way, even though there's no residential abutting this, but this will be a cut through for people that live in Hyacinth Park. So right now, I'm opposing this until we can have further discussion with the appellant and the company, because we have not spoken with them at all. And I'm concerned about an electric fence and the distance between the two. So until I know more about this, I cannot consciously for the residents and for our neighbor to support this at all.
So you have had no contact with the
None.
property owner?
No, and I even checked with our city planner, Nicole Calhoun, who is on vacation this week. She is not. And also we work with a company, we work with Siri, which is the industrial group, and Millie Carabella, and she has not spoken with anybody from there either. So I don't feel comfortable supporting this until we have a better conversation.
Okay. I'm going to go to Councilman Starr. If you'd like to make comment, sir.
I would just bring a comment, some of the points that Marilyn from Slavic Village pointed out. I too have not met with the owner. I do not even know what is actually going on with the business. This past summer, I did do a neighborhood cleanup in St. Hyacinth neighborhood, and along that East 61st, along that Ave, we had a whole bunch of glass parcels that we did have to pick up that was up and down the East 61st part. And I still would like to meet with the owner to see exactly what they're doing. And then another part that came to mind is the gentleman who just spoke and presented, Michael Pate, mentioned that he's from South Carolina. I'm trying to figure out the type of fencing that he's looking to install. Is there anyone local that can do the same type of fencing, or is just something special? Because, I am a hometown guy, and I love to see people in Northeast Ohio, local businesses, get an opportunity to do development. So my thing is, I have yet to meet with the owners to understand what their plans are. Dr. Calhoun, who is our planner, has not yet met with them either. So it's like, what are we doing overall with this property? So I would definitely say I oppose to this. I do not support this, and I would love to make sure Michael Pate understands to let his client know that he should get in contact with my office, get in contact with Marilyn as well as Chris over there at Slavic Village, so we can figure out what is actually going on before we move to doing some projects in Ward 5.
Councilman, are you requesting a postponement on this until you have meeting?
Definitely, I would love for us to do that before I do a postpone until we can all meet, and then we can bring it back possibly.
City planning, do you want to weigh in on this?
Maurice Rowland, City Planning. I have to concur with the councilman and with Marilyn from the CDC, their comments. It just, to me, to install this fence at this point in time without addressing, because it's only going to be, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, 4 to 8 inches back from the existing chain link fence, correct?
That is correct. That is the standard, and that's how you're supposed to operate these devices. That's the way it works.
Right. That makes sense. That's fine. I'm not questioning that. I just want to make sure I got that right. But it doesn't make sense to go ahead and put that in when obviously that retaining wall needs to be replaced. It's crumbling. It's an eyesore. So it seems like all of this needs to be addressed before the electrified fence is put in. It just, to me, it just, you know, we're doing it backwards here. So I would agree with the councilman and with Marilyn in their views on this.
Okay, well, the councilman has requested postponement. Board, do you have any further comment or questions? Okay, hearing none. Liz, the councilman has requested a postponement so that they could have meetings with the property owner. Can you give us a date for that?
Yes, Madam Chair. So February 13th would be a little over 1 month. The hearing date after that would be February 27th.
Okay, let's move it to February 27th to allow adequate time for them to meet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, this is Marilyn from Slavic Village. I just want to pass on my contact information. I'm not sure if the appellant, if you could either share yours with me or if you can get a hold of me, so we can, because I don't know the owner of this property, and I assumed it was you, and so it'd be good if I can find out information how to reach out to them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of crucial that if you don't know the owner, that we get that information. Liz, do you have the property owner contact information?
Yes, I should.
Can you can you pass that along to Marilyn?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Ms. Kugler will take care of that, Marilyn.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
So this case is in postponement until at the request of the councilman. All right, let's move on to our next case. 22-218. Oh, I'm sorry. I believe we had Councilman Gray on. Is that correct, Maurice?
I haven't
I
noticed,
saw
to
her.
tell you the truth. We have a big list today, so. Yes, I do see, yes.
Yes.
Xavier just pointed out to me that, yes, she is right on there. And
Okay.
she is here for, let's see. Actually,
I'm not seeing the case.
no, she does not have any cases on today.
All right. Councilman Gray.
I think she's just here for the entertainment.
Okay,
All right.
no, I wasn't sure. Good morning, everybody. Happy New Year.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
We
I
don't
got the
have a
invitation.
case. We don't have a case for you today, ma'am.
Okay,
So,
I got the invitation, so I just came on just to see.
all right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Councilwoman,
everyone.
we always send out an invitation to all the council people so they have it just in case they want to come, because, you know, these are such exciting meetings to view.
Well, you know what? It's a learning scale for me, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good day.
It
Thank
is
you.
Have a good day.
it is a fascinating process. All right.
All right. Have a great day.
Thank you. You as
Thanks,
well.
you too.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll loop back to 22-218.
Great. All right, we have calendar number 22-218. This is at 2545 Lorraine Avenue. United 25th Building LLC proposes to establish a tattooing use in a C4 local retail business district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and your address, please.
I do. My name is Dave Stalter. I am the owner of Voodoo Monkey Tattoo. My address is 2070 West 25th Street, Cleveland, Ohio.
Thank you.
I do. My name is Joe Delray. I am the Chief Operating Officer for MRN in United 25th Building, LLC. Our address is 629 Euclid Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio.
I do. My name is Jeffrey Goss. I am General Counsel for MRN and United 25th Building, LLC. And my address is 629 Euclid Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay, sounds like that's everyone. So we'll move on to.
Hold on just a second. I'm sorry. This is Daniel Sirk. I'm an architect representing MRN, 1322 Old River Road.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. All right, is there anyone else?
I do. I am David Stenrus. I am also an architect with that SA Group, 1322 Old River Road.
All right. All right. Ms. Kukla, could we have history of the property, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Property was originally zoned general retail in 1929. In 2011, it was changed to local retail business. In our Records Administration Office, we found that in 1926, a permit was issued for alterations to United Bank Trust Building. There are no variances on file. And then in the more recent history, we see that there was a permit issued in 2004 to erect an awning as approved by Landmarks Commission. Starting in 2005, we see food licenses being issued to the property between 2005 and 2009. And then there are various electrical permits, HVAC permits. 2011, a permit was issued to erect a double-face illuminated sign. And Madam Chair, I believe that's all that we have that's relevant. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance and an area variance from the tattoo regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. All right, who's going to be the spokesperson for this case?
I am going to be the primary spokesperson. This is Jeff Goss. I am General Counsel for MRN and the building owner, United 25th. I'm speaking on behalf of the building owner and landlord, and Dave Stalter is the proprietor of Voodoo Monkey, which is a tenant of ours currently at 2070 West 25th Street, which is, as you can see on the screen, is around the corner from the property site that we are currently discussing. It's important to point out Dave's existing location, as it was the recipient of a very similar variance from this board in November of 2009 for the very same purpose. We sought then a variance from the applicable, sorry, it's a new year, my tongue's not working just yet. Applicable code, and applicable zoning, for the property. And the board was kind enough to grant us that variance, so Dave could operate in the space. He operated in a neighboring space to his existing space for several years before that, also subject to a variance. He's now moving, we working together with him, have proposed moving him around the corner to a site that is, I believe it's slightly larger, and it's going to be far better suited for him to serve his clients, to serve, to operate his business, and gives him an opportunity to grow. I think it's important to note that the vast majority of this block is all owned by United 25th. So we are quite literally just moving into another space within the same general property area, same location, to kind of give him a better opportunity to grow his business. It's a more finished space. It's in a far better condition. His existing space needs a significant amount of repair. And rather than shutting the business down and having to do the repair, we worked with Dave to find him an alternative space within the same basic area. Dave has been a good member of the community, operates without incident, is a very good tenant, is involved in lots of community issues. Dave, I'll turn it over to you if you just kind of want to speak to your business and your role to the community a little bit. That would be great.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we've been there for since 2001 in Ohio City, and it's been great for us. The amount of exposure we had in the beginning and enjoyed since then, I owe it all to just being in the neighborhood. We offer other, like you mentioned, community services. We do charitable work every year for breast cancer survivors, and yeah, we've been, it's been a great run, and we want to keep it going. That's all.
So, thanks, Dave. So we are really here to respectfully ask the board to kind of look back to their prior acts in 2009 and grant a similar variance for Dave to continue operating his business on what we view as the same general property. That's all I really have.
Okay, you have architects present. Do either of them want to speak to this at all?
This is Daniel Sirk, owner of SA Group here in Cleveland. Yeah, this project, knowing Dave being already on West 25th, this really is just a relocation within the same sector and the same zoning area to a better location for his operation.
Great, thank you. All right, city planning.
Maurice Rowland, City Planning. This is actually good timing. If anybody had been to our website in the past couple of days, we have posted a series of proposals for changing parts of the zoning code. And one of the proposals that we have put out for public comment is to allow tattoo studios in the local retail district and reduce the parking requirement for up to, I believe, 2,000 square feet. So this particular property is proposed studio is exactly in line with what we're proposing. And as you know, we just approved a similar tattoo studio over on, I think it was Lorraine, over at the Forest City Shuffleboard just a couple of weeks ago. Similar situation where it's a second floor studio. They don't even really have any street frontage. It looks like this is going to be the same situation. Is the primary entrance, I'm just going to ask the applicant, whoever wants to take this, is the primary entrance actually the one in the back of the building where it currently has that leap awning?
No, actually, that's a secondary entrance.
So is it going to be the one I have circled here underneath by the Dave's Cosmic Sub? No?
No, actually, and Dan, I think you want to.
Yeah, it's the upper right-hand photo, about halfway down that elevation. Correct.
Oh, it's down here. Okay, boy, I missed it completely. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and it's on the second floor, correct?
No, it's on.
It is on the first floor. Okay, regardless, okay, then we're still very much in approval of this. It's still, like I said, consistent with what city planning is currently proposing. We're removing the buffers from schools and churches and things like that, and allowing it in local retail. So we definitely support this proposal.
Maurice, could you highlight where that entrance is again on that photograph that
Yeah, sure. Let me zoom in
have
here.
commented on?
So I believe it's in this area somewhere, correct, gentlemen?
That is correct.
Yes,
right.
from the rear corner, it'll be the third set of window bays will be the proposed new entry.
So probably right there.
Yeah,
That's correct.
it.
Yes, the left panel of that bay. Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, so that's going to be reconstructed then to a doorway entrance.
Let
Or
me
is
see
it?
if there's a. When we did our initial review, we didn't have this detailed set of drawings, so we didn't know, but it's right there.
Right, okay. Board, any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, Board Member Roca motions to approve this project and the variance is requested.
Thank you, Member Roca. Could I have a second?
Board Member Holzer, I second.
Thank you. Ms. Kukla, could you call the vote, please?
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Roca?
Yes.
Ms. Bate?
Yes.
Calendar number 22-218 is granted. It'll be ratified next week, and we will send the appellant a letter.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good luck
Thank
with
you.
your project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on. Ms. Holzer?
All right, we have calendar number 22-221. This is at 6104-08 Madison Avenue. Samir Kulkarni and Claire Campbell propose to erect a two-story frame single-family residence with attached garage and greenhouse on a City of Cleveland land bank lot in a B1 two-family residential district. The owners appeal for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland codified ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 4. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply I do, state your name and your address, please.
I do. Joe Keneally, 6516 Detroit Avenue with Northwest Neighborhoods Community Development.
We have an applicant present.
They should be on here. I'm not sure.
I see Claire Campbell's name, but I'm not seeing that she's connected. Miss Campbell, are you on the phone? If you are, hit *6 to unmute yourself.
Madam Chair, she just entered text into the window that she's having problems with her microphone, and she's troubleshooting it now.
All right, great.
And to Ms. Campbell, you can just call in. You should have the phone numbers to just call in if you want to use your phone as your microphone.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Sorry about that. I do. Claire Campbell, 1438 Newman Avenue, Lakewood.
Thank you. Ms. Campbell, are you going to be the spokesperson for your case today?
No, our architect, Matt Wolf, should be on this meeting. He'll be representing us.
All right, I'm seeing a Matt listed in the participants. Matt, are you online with us? Matt, are you on the phone?
I see him. I imagine he must be having microphone problems as well,
Yeah.
or sound issues.
Ms. Camp, will you think we can get him connected, Maurice?
I don't know what the issue is.
Yeah. All right.
I can
You can
reach
always
out to him
call
and
in. Again, yeah, again, the invitation that you got does have a call-in number, so you could use that as well.
I
Ms.
can try
Campbell,
to reach out to him if that would be okay. Could we come
yeah.
back to our case?
Yes, we're going to move forward and
Okay.
we'll come back to you and hopefully you can get him online because I think you're going to need him probably to help support your case for you. All right, so moving on then, 22-222.
We have calendar number 22-222. This is at 8605 Detroit Avenue. Alex Musalam, owner, proposes to establish use as a carryout restaurant in a local retail zoning district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Thank you. I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply, I do, state your name and your address.
I do. Amin El Khatib and 9692 Sunray Drive, Homestead Township, Ohio.
I do. I'm Zayed at 4511 Camellia Lane, North Homestead, Ohio.
I'm sorry,
Anyone
sir,
else?
what was your name again?
Hamza Ayad.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Brown. History of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property was originally zoned general retail in 1929. And in 2015, it was changed to local retail business. In our Records Administration Office, we found that in 1907, a permit was issued to erect a two-story stores and dwelling unit on site. And then, Madam Chair, there are no variances on file and nothing of note in the more recent history. Thank you.
Thank you. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting an area variance from the parking regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. All right, gentlemen, which of you is going to be the spokesperson for your case today?
Amin El Khatib.
Great. Go ahead and tell us what you'd like to do.
We're just making a sandwich shop, and we got denied, or we needed a variance over the parking, but it's an existing building. So we can't really add any parking to that building unless like the city wanted to add it. So there's not much we can really do about the parking.
All right. So it's street parking only.
Yes, street parking. Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to be dine in or carry out only?
It's a carry out, just sandwich like subs.
All right. And independently operated or a franchise or?
Independently. I actually have the Boost Mobile next door. I'm also the owner of that, so I'm gonna be the tenant of both locations.
All right. Okay. City planning?
Yes, Madam Chair, Maurice Rowland, City Planning. First of all, great to hear that it's going to be locally owned and operated. That's always a plus. And, you know, it would be ridiculous to not allow this business to open here. You know, we have a vacant storefront. I wouldn't want it to remain vacant just because they don't have 3 parking spaces. There's ample parking in the neighborhood, as you can see from the aerial view here. So we recommend approval of this project. And we're happy to see this building brought fully back to life on the ground floor.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
I just have a question. What is as I'm looking at the photo, what's to the left of the building?
There is a parking lot, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, it was to the left of which parking lot?
So, well, if this is the one you're thinking about, that's a parking lot that is owned by the apartment building behind. Is that what the question you were asking?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I did a property search, and that is used for the apartment next door. I thought the same thing when I first went out there. Oh, they have parking right here, but unfortunately for them, they don't have access to that lot.
Thank you.
I do have a question, and I apologize if I missed this. What are the hours of operation for the business?
We were thinking we were probably gonna stay open till like 10. If we want to change it at any point, would we just have to submit it, I guess, with the city?
Well, you need to be rather firm on your hours, sir, for the purpose of the variance. So, are you going to be operating Monday through Friday or all 7 days of the week? What time do you plan to open?
Yeah, so we are open every day. It's gonna be most likely. He was just wondering if we did decide to change it, but we're gonna be from 10 to 8 mostly, or 10 to 9 every day.
10 to 9?
Yep.
All right. Excellent question, Ms. Holzer. Any other questions?
Just one question, Madam Chair, for Mr. Rowlands. I just want to confirm there is street parking available on West 85th Street. It looks like some cars are parked there, and not on Detroit. Is that correct?
Yeah, not immediately in front of the building. Unfortunately, there are no parking signs. You're correct, but you can park on West 85th. There are other spots on Detroit, I believe, that you can park, but not right in front of his building.
Yeah, mostly people park across the street in that one empty lot. Like for my Boost Mobile, they'll usually park across the street, but yeah, so.
All right, thank you.
Is that it then, board? Great, good questions. With that and the support of city planning, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the variance requested, the parking variance requested. Board Member Roca.
Thank you. I'll take a second.
Board Member Holder, I second.
Thank you. Ms. Kukla, would you call the vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Roca?
Yes.
Ms. Bate?
Yes.
Under 22-222 is granted. It'll be ratified next Monday, and then we will send the appellants a letter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Good luck.
Happy New Year. Good luck with your business.
Happy New Year, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's circle back to 22-221. Ms. Campbell, do we have the architect on the call yet?
We're still trying to get Matt connected. He's gonna call in. He's on the WebEx, but he is having trouble with his mic as well, so he's gonna call in.
All right, we'll move on then.
Thank
Then
you.
we'll come back to you. Calendar number 22-223.
We have, all right, calendar number 22-223. This is at 3105 Franklin Boulevard. TDG Franklin Realty proposes to change use of a former elderly care complex to 38 apartments in a B1 two-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there is one. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. Reply, I do. State your name and your address, please.
I do. Joe Corfont, Dallas Group, 6055 Rockside Woods Boulevard, Independence, Ohio.
I do. Jeff Gibbon from Gibbon Architecture, 30 or we're in Shaker, Ohio, Shaker Heights.
I do. Donna Gregonis, 2406 Professor Avenue.
Anyone else? Okay, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Could I have history of the property, please?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair, this property remains in the original zoning from 1929. Madam Chair, this is a repeat. The most important information here is that the board grants an identical variance to establish the use as 38 apartments. The use as assisted living was granted in a variance as well in 1987. So the current legal use of the property is the assisted living elder care, but this board did grant a variance to change use to apartments in calendar number 22-023 that was in March of this year. It was granted without any conditions. And that's it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Legal standard then, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance from the regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If we approve something in March, what's different here? I'm not sure I understand.
That was going to be the next question. So
thank you, ma'am.
I could answer that.
Yes, please.
Andrew Arusi was the vice president at the time. He had since left the company. That was in midsummer. And so during this process, the application expired. We had stopped work for not only that reason, but just because of inflation and some other reasons, we reapplied for additional tax credits with the state, which we were just approved a couple of weeks ago. So during this waiting period, it simply expired.
Okay.
Andrew was in charge of this, and I kind of took it over since he left, and I was unaware that it needed to be followed up. So I guess it was my fault. I didn't see it, and so we noticed it, found it, and reapplied, and here we are.
All right. Is this? I'm looking at the rendering now. And if I'm recalling this correctly, this was one building on a complex of several buildings. Is that correct?
Well, it always was the way you see it, although there was a connector that connected the that mansion. And there you can see it in that drawing right there to the apartments. And basically we took down that connector. So now you're fully exposing the house as it originally was and the apartment as originally was. I think that that connector was probably built in the 70s. So that's all we did. We basically restored things to the way they were.
Okay. Ms. Brown, does that satisfy your question? Because you probably recall this
I
case.
did. I
Mhm.
remembered it. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm fine.
okay, great. All right, so, gentlemen, do you want to just explain to us a little more fully for the benefit of our new board members, what you're doing with this project?
Well, we're basically taking the two apartment buildings and we're keeping it an apartment building. We're just we have fewer units than it probably was. It'll be market rate apartments, nicer than what was there. And then we're taking the mansion and we're putting several new apartment buildings in there. And in the field that you see between the apartment buildings and the mansion is going to be a very nice courtyard.
Change in the number of the apartments, how many units are you planning to have?
There'll be a total of 38 units.
Okay. And the parking situation for those?
The parking situation is across the street, which is already approved. I believe we have a permit for that already. You'll see it in that drawing right there across the street on West 31st and Franklin. So that's the parking for the building.
All right. So in the site plan, we're seeing your landscaping and the plan for the courtyard and the complex.
Right, and just to give you an example of the kind of quality that Dallin produces, we did the property down the street, the Tinnerman Loft. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I think we did a really nice job there too. We put a nice courtyard within a industrial setting, so we kind of plan to do the same thing here. We do pretty nice work.
And I'm guessing you were probably delayed because of the jump in materials cost and your change in personnel.
Yeah, those are not only two big reasons, those are mainly the two reasons, period.
Okay, great. Anyone else from your team want to speak? All right. No?
No, I don't think so. I think we're pretty clear on things.
Okay.
So
Donna Bergonis?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New
in
Year
the
to you.
Board. So I am stepping in for Nate Lull with Ohio City Incorporated. Although I used to work in that position as Nate before. Anyway, he was not able to make the meeting, but I did work on this project closely with Mr. Iarusi, as Mr. Corfont mentioned. And this project I know was something that they worked closely with the community on, and Ohio City Incorporated and myself. And I know that they went to the block club, and the block club did vote to approve this project. And yeah, so and this also went through the landmarks process and was approved in that regard as well, for the historic aspects of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you. All right. City planning?
I'm Maurice Rowland, City Planning. Yeah, this is a really exciting project. This is great to see these old structures brought back to life and reused. And as Donna just pointed out, this has had a lot of review. It's been reviewed by everybody, very positive reviews. So we recommended approval of this before, and there would be no reason why we wouldn't recommend approval now. And we're anxious to get to see this completed.
It's a good looking site plan, and I think we're in agreement as city planning. Mr. Rulins just stated it's good to see these buildings put back into use. Any questions or comments from my board? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Board?
This is Board Member Holzer. It doesn't sound like there are any additional conditions, so I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Could I have a second, please?
Member Brown, I second.
All right, Member Brown seconds. Ms. Kukla, could you call for the vote, please?
Ms. Roca?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Bate?
Yes.
Calendar number 22-223 is granted, to be ratified next week, and we will send the appellants a letter.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank
We look
you.
forward to seeing this come to fruition.
Us too. Thank you.
Mhm. All right, let's see where we're at here.
Do we want to go back to
Yeah, let's see if we've got those folks on.
Madison Avenue?
Yes, please. Miss Campbell, have you had luck getting Matt on?
I'm thinking he's on. I see a new call-in user 4. Matt, could you please unmute and chime in?
Yeah.
Star
Hello.
six. There he goes. Great.
Great. All right, Matt.
Okay,
Sorry about all that. I was.
That's okay. We just need to swear you in. Miss Brown is gonna do the oath, and once we have that, we can move forward. Miss Brown, go ahead.
do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. Say I do. State your name and your address, please.
I do. Matthew Wolf, 1814 East 40th.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
suppose I should swear into. This is Samir Kulkarni, one of the applicants.
Yes.
143 Newman Avenue, Lakewood, Ohio.
Great, thank you. So I think we had Claire sworn in, so that should be everyone now, correct? Is there anyone else we're missing?
Joe Neely also swore in.
All right.
I'm not sure if he's still on the line.
I see him on the list. He looks like he's
Sure.
on mute. Joe, are you still with us?
I am still here, yes.
All right, great.
Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Ms. Kukla will take history of the property.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. There are no variances on file. And the most pertinent information here is that in 2004, a permit was issued to demolish a single-family dwelling on site. Thank you.
Great. All right, legal standard.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting area variances from the permitted interior side yard encroachment, required rear yard, maximum gross floor area, and minimum distance regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. All right. Who's going to be the spokesperson for this case?
Matthew?
All right. If you'd like to go ahead and tell us what you're going to do.
Yeah, we're going to build a 2-story home with an attached garage. The site's a little peculiar that it connects with the railroad triangle site here and fronts Madison that has since been changed to a kind of pedestrian walk. Yeah, so there's a wildflower kind of park in the front of this and a low retaining wall. So to address the items that we are seeking variance on, I shrunk the building down essentially 6 inches around the whole perimeter so that we are now with our 50% of the site coverage. And I scooched the building over towards a railroad site so that we're in compliance with our adjacencies to the neighboring houses. So we're really just seeking a variance for the location of the emergency egress out of the basement, location of the air conditioner, and the placement of the house. So we've kind of set the building on this Lillian Court with enough radius to turn and get a sedan in and out of the attached garage. And then we've developed the front of the house to kind of mimic and connect with the wildflower garden out front.
So the wildflower garden out front is a green space maintained by whom? The city?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And if you can show us where the air conditioning compressor is going on
Yeah,
the
if
plan
you,
view
and I
there?
apologize for this, if we can go down a couple drawings to A21. One more down.
Looks like I don't have A21. I may not have included it.
Yeah. Well, let me just say it's at the rear corner that is facing the railroad site because the utility room is down there. So it's right at the end of the house prior to the garage, facing the railroad site.
And there's a bit of a bump in there on the garage, is that correct?
Yes, it kind of
Looks like
comes in a bit. Yes.
And what's your distance from the garage to the Lillian Court? You have one car length or no?
Let's see here. I'm gonna expand. We're 11. Well, this is 11.5 1/4. So
Okay. Okay. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
no, I don't think so.
Okay. City planning?
Maurice Rowland, City Planning. So just to refresh here, you still just wanted to go over the variances that you're actually requesting. So we have 4 listed right now. Do you still need all 4 of those, or did you say that you've modified some things that you don't need those?
We do not need the gross area. I'm under the 50 now. I was essentially 6 inches shy of it all the way around the building.
So number 3 you don't need.
No, sir.
All right. So
Number
number
3?
3 is off.
And number
Right.
4, we don't need as well. So I moved the building essentially another 6 inches towards the railroad site. So we're within compliance there.
But that's not indicated on this drawing, correct? Because I see 5'7" 1/4 for the one neighbor's house is the distance between the house and the adjacent structure.
I have a whole other set that I can send.
No, that's fine. As long as you're saying that that's what, as long as you get that revised set to Secretary Kukla after this meeting, that'd be fine. I'm just trying to go over here what you need and what you don't, so we can be clear what we're granting and what we're not. So number 3 and number 4 you don't need, and so you need the rear yard from 26.3 to 11 feet 2 inches, and you need the air condenser unit.
Air conditioning unit and the egress from the basement, the well.
Well, you know what? Right. And can you tell me why you need that egress? Are you planning on putting a living space down there, or?
There's an office down there. Yep.
There's an office down there. And will we really don't like to see those in the side yards. Is it covered so that you would be able to walk over it?
It is.
So there's a grate over it or something like that. Yep. And if there were to be a fence on that property line, would that impede someone from actually using that emergency egress?
Nope.
You don't think so? Because it seems like it's kind of tight.
Yeah, I've have it opening, so I have the rungs coming up. It would swing open, and you could exit towards the.
Matt, you're kind of fading out on us.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, if you could just repeat that a little closer to your microphone for us, that would be great.
Yeah, we can open the egress and move towards well, either Lillian or Madison at that juncture.
Okay. Well, first of all, this is definitely a difficult site to work with here. You've got no real frontage, and your frontage is the only frontage you really have is on Lillian Court, which is a very small, narrow court. So we're happy to see this vacant piece of property put to good use and have a new residence put in, and also glad to see that you've modified the site plan with and managed to remove 2 of the variances. So we would recommend approval of this project.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Kukla.
if the appellant could explain further how the plan has been changed. Has the building been reduced, or did you say you're shifting it? Are we shifting it closer to the street? It is unfortunate that we don't have that drawing in front of us.
Yeah, it's the building was reduced. This construction is going to be passive house, so we have essentially 1 foot thick exterior walls. So the rains, what I've done is I've reduced the building, the actual dimension of the rain screen. So if you could imagine, the whole thing just kind of shrinks. That gets us within our area. And then I move the building towards the railroad site, which is the big triangular piece, away from the neighboring houses, so that we comply with the 6 foot line.
And Matt, the new drawings that you have reflect all these changes. Is that correct?
They do. And
Okay. So if we approve this when we vote, it will be conditional on those new drawings being submitted
absolutely
to Ms. Kukla, so that they're current and reflective of what you've done.
Yep.
Ms. Kukla, does that answer all your questions?
I think so, yes. If the appellant could just describe the dimensions of that interior side yard, then it looks like the side with the window well will be pushed closer to the property line then. The site plan looks like it says 5 feet. What are you talking now, 3 feet?
let's see here, what have I got this dimension?
I believe he only had to make up for 6 inches on the other side.
That's right. So the equation of reducing the size of this house essentially got us an extra foot. So I'm looking at the latest drawings, and I'm at like 4.6.
So that is the
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm at 5 feet.
from the projection of the egress window well to the lot line is 5 feet. Is that what you're saying?
The 5 feet will be the edge of the exterior sheathing to the lot line.
Okay. And then the projection of the window well to the lot line, what is that dimension?
I have an internal 3 foot dimension, and then let's say another foot for my masonry. So 3, 4, 4. So I'm a foot off of that property line.
Okay. Ms. Kukla, does that answer your question?
Yes, that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Rulins, are you comfortable with that dimension? Should we have fencing in the future?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. All right, any other comments from the project team?
I might
If
point
I
out
may,
too,
I'd like, I guess,
just real quick, the
ask
adjacent
a little
property
bit about-
is
I'm sorry. One at
I
a
just wanted to
time.
point out that the adjacent property is owned by the railroad and is unlikely to be developed anytime in the near future.
Great.
Well, and I would say to second that is that when Madison was changed to a pedestrian road, the city took out the sanitary slant. And I'm not sure. We're proposing connecting to a manhole that's in the kind of the wildflower park. And then I guess we're going to have to cut this concrete wall in front of the residents. And I guess where I'm saying all this is that if there's someone we should talk to at the city about all this, it'd be great.
Mr. Rulins, do you have any response to that?
Off the top of my head, I'm not exactly sure. That might be the Division of Water Pollution Control. I don't have a contact off the top of my head for that. Ms. Kukla, do you have a contact name? But I'm pretty sure that's who you would be dealing with.
No, I don't have a contact name, but Mr. Riccardi, if he could just confirm that the process is that any issues regarding water pollution control would be addressed in a separate review. Is that correct, Mr. Riccardi?
Well, water pollution has looked at this and they've approved the civil engineer's approach to replacing the sanitary slant. I just am curious about how this client's going to receive like mail, mailbox, friends coming over. I mean, it may be that they have to go down the court. But frontage is essentially Madison. I know this body's not the place to bring this up, but yeah, I was just
right.
There's someone to talk to about it.
Right.
So you're asking if there's somebody you could talk to about modifying the retaining wall in front of the property?
Well, I think we're going to have to just to get the slant to work.
Yeah, I'm not. Again, I'm not sure who owns that right now, or who is responsible for that. If that's a city-owned retaining wall, or if that's owned by RTA or Norfolk and Southern. I'm not 100% sure, but it would depend on the ownership of that parcel and that retaining wall.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Certainly. All right. Well, back to the variances that are in front of us. Board members, do you have any questions or comments with regard to the two remaining variances that we need to decide on?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. It's I'm still a little confused by the egress point for the office. I just would like someone to clarify, Maurice, if you could. Is that within the variances that we are reviewing today, or does it's already are allowed by the code?
It is not an allowed encroachment into the side yard.
Okay.
We have approved those in the past.
And would that speak to the variant number 1?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
It's both of those. I believe the air conditioner, the condenser unit is in the side yard, which is also not an allowed encroachment, as well as the window well. Both of those for number 1.
Does that clarify things for you, Ms. Rocco?
It does. And one last thing, and I think I heard you say, Maurice, that would be appropriate for fire authority. Like if they're, for
fire egress.
Yes, that's what I meant to say.
Or emergency egress, but whether it be fire or some other emergency. Yeah, I think the whole idea is that you could safely exit using that stairwell or that window well to get out.
Okay, thank you.
Of the building, and I think if the steps, it looks like, are on the sides and not on the back of the window well, I think you would be able to easily exit that property, even with a fence there.
Does that answer your question, Ms. Rocco?
It does. Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Rollins.
Certainly. All right. It- With no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Board Member Roca motions to approve the variance listed in number 1 and 2 on the conditional approval that the appellant provide updated plans to the city reflecting the new drawings that were discussed on the record today.
Thank you. Could I have a second, please?
Board Member Holder, I second.
Thank you. Ms. Kukla, if you could call the roll for the vote, please.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Roca?
Yes.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Calendar number 22-221 is granted conditionally. We'll hold ratification until we receive that revised and final site plan. Once we receive that, the board will ratify it the following Monday, and then we will send the appellant a letter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck with the project. All right, moving on to 22-182.
I'll just wait till it's pulled up.
Sure.
All right, we have calendar number 22-182. This is at 1116 Auburn Avenue. The Ohio Project LLC proposes to change the use of an existing single-family dwelling on the rear half of the lot to a two-family dwelling with an existing two-family. Sorry, that sentence mixed me up. To a two-family dwelling with an existing two-family dwelling located on the front half of the same lot. The subject premises are located in a B1 two-family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 3. This case was originally postponed on October 24th, 2022 at the request of the appellant for community review, or at the request of the councilman to allow time for community review. There was a second postponement on November 28th to allow the appellant time to work with the community. No testimony was taken at that time. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
I'm swearing in all who are present for this case. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand. Reply, I do. State your name and your address, please.
I do. Kevin Lacini, 14930 Ventura Boulevard.
Is there anyone else?
I do. Nima Hagigi, 14930 Ventura Boulevard.
I do. Donna Gregonis, 2406 Professor Avenue in Cleveland.
I do. Kate O'Neill, 1201 Starkweather. That address also comprises 1120 Auburn, which is the contiguous neighbor to this property.
I do. Jonathan Petrie, 2326 West 14th Street.
Anyone else?
Could I just get the name again of the woman who is the adjacent neighbor?
Yes, Kate O'Neill.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Sorry, Miss Brown.
No problem. To you, Madam Chair.
Thanks. All right. Ms. Kukla, have we had history of the property?
No, we haven't.
All right, let's move forward with that then.
All right. Madam Chair, there's been no change in the zoning since 1929. In our Records Administration Office, we found that a permit was issued in 1819 to erect, I'm sorry, that was probably 1919, to construct a foundation on that address. And then in 1931, a permit was issued for alterations to a dwelling on site. There are no variances on file. And then in the more recent history in our Acela system, we found that in 2021, alterations were made to re-roof the property, install a furnace on site, a new hot water heater, and interior drywall work, all in 2021. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Could I have the legal standard, please?
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance and area variances from the parking and minimum lot area regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kukla, do we have any statement from the council person on this case?
I don't believe I've seen anything, Madam Chair.
All right. And who will be the spokesperson for this case?
That's going to be me, Kevin Lucchini.
Okay, Kevin, if you'd like to go ahead and tell us what you want to do.
Sure. So this property has actually been used as a 4-unit since we have records back to 1994 when the appraiser went out and appraised it, the county records, not the city. There are no city records. Currently, the property is sitting vacant and has sat vacant for quite a while because it keeps going back and forth in zoning and it switches owners. We've been working with the block captain, Kate O'Neill, and we have also been in contact with economic development and the council person to get everyone, to back us putting the 4 units in here since we found out about the requirements. When we purchased it, we actually relied on county records. So we always thought it was a 4-unit. When we submitted our application, we just submitted as a 4-unit, not thinking there was a variance in play here. However, there was, I think we worked out the main problems of the zoning code, which is basically the parking and the block supporting the project. So we are able to, with the help of the HOA at 1120, which is the adjoining property, we're going to be able to move that fence over about 2 feet and get 2 cars tandem on one side. And we went ahead and got in contact with the neighbor next door on the other side of the property, and we leased her parking spaces, which she does not use, so we can get 2 cars on the other side, which provides for 4 parking spots total. In addition, there's a couple of handicap spots in the front of the building, and there hasn't been a handicap resident. There hasn't even been a resident in this property for quite a while. So I think parking wise, we have the bases covered. Other than that, we're not changing the footprint of the home. On the outside, it will stay the same. We're just going to be reconditioning the exterior to make sure that the paint and everything is done properly. And then we're just going to be framing everything up. Right now it's gutted, the property, and it has been for quite a while.
The interior of both buildings is gutted?
Yes, and they have been for quite a while.
Down to the studs.
Down to the studs, that's correct. The furnace, so the permit that you see for the furnaces were replaced and the newer furnaces are in there, but otherwise it's completely down to the studs. The property that is on the other side of 1120, that driveway, is actually a 5-unit, and it's almost an identical property. They're using it as 5-unit, and they have no parking or anything like that. I'm sure that was at some point approved, because they have permits and everything for it. So I think the use in this area is tangible for this lot to have 4 units. I mean, it has been used as a 4-unit the last 30 years at least, we know.
And the agreement, the parking agreement you have with the neighbor, is that in looking at this aerial shot, are you talking about the neighbor that's to the right?
Both directions. So the building that you see behind us that has that emergency exit that goes out next to us, we have one agreement with them to move that gate over 2 feet so we can get 2 cars to the left. And then to the right of us, which is, let me look up the address right now, is 1112. That property has a driveway between the two of us, which can facilitate 2 cars as well.
And do you have written agreements for these parking?
Yes, we do. Yes, and we provided both.
Did you submitted both of those to us?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Kukla, you have those on file?
Madam Chair, let me double check. I don't see it printed, but we may just have an email that's pending printing.
The email would have been from Denise R.
While Ms. Kukla is searching for that email, does anyone else from your project team want to speak?
No, I think it's just going to be me today.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. If the appellant could send it again, that would be great.
Sure. I am sending right now to your email address.
Perfect. That way we'll have it in hand. Okay. So no further testimony as to your project then, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Donna, did you want to make comments on this?
Yes, so good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Donna Gregonis with Tremont West Development Corporation. So this project did go before the Neighborhood Block Club, and I think some of those members are online as well, and I know they would like to speak. And they have been speaking with this developer more closely as of late than I have. I haven't seen those parking agreements, so I would ask that we make sure we get those prior to anything. And this project also has not had the chance to go to Economic Development Committee yet, but it has gone through the Block Club, and there were some parking issues that they were talking about, but it seems like they had a couple of solutions that they came up with that Mr. Licini has mentioned. But assuming that the Block Club didn't have issues with it, I don't know that the Economic Development Committee would say too much different. And I know that this project has been troublesome for a few years since it's been neglected. And it's good to see that it seems like Mr. Licini has been very responsive and willing to work with the community. And it seems like he's trying to do things the right way. So I will say that based on the few interactions I've had with them. So yes, and one of the other issues is we want to make sure that some of these illegal 4-unit buildings aren't getting passed without the proper review. But it doesn't seem like this one is problematic at the moment. So thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, I have Jonathan Petrie.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. I just wanted to say that we at the Lincoln Auburn Block Club support good development that emphasizes good development for a neighborhood that's a good fit. We've always considered good developments, and we're happy to support this project. This is formerly a problem property for the Block Club, so cleaning it up and legitimizing 4 units, including parking, maintaining them well, is a very welcome outcome. I just want to also say that our support is conditional upon formalization of parking agreements and everything else that we discussed with the developer during our last meeting. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks so much for that statement.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
This is Liz. I was able to find the attachments that the appellant, or the email that the appellant was speaking of. I was looking for Denise instead of ClearCap. In any event, the attachments or the parking rental agreement is not signed, one that we've received, as well as the issue regarding the fencing being changed. There's an HOA mentioned here. I don't see any signatures on that either. So if the board wanted to, in any event, we need the signed documents before the board ratifies this today.
Right. So to Kevin, do you have executed copies of those agreements, or are those yet to be signed and executed?
So the parking agreement to the property at 1112, I have an executed copy and I can send that forward. On the left side, 1120, the HOA, we kind of worked out some things for their favor since they were helping us out. And I believe the HOA board president is on the call today. But we have not signed that agreement. However, we are both verbally on the same page. She just needs to take it to the board and make sure that they sign off on it.
Okay. So I believe, thank you. Kate, I believe you are the spokesperson for the HOA. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So I was going to go to you next after
you.
Jonathan, and then Elizabeth gave her statement. So you want to go ahead and make your statement now, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sort of a triple hit here.
Okay.
I'm the contiguous neighbor. I represent the HOA and my neighbors in this group. There's 7 of us. And I participate in the block club with Jonathan. We are so happy to tell you that we support good projects, and this is one of them. And yes, we are working with Kevin to formalize that document to move our fence that allows him to get a car to the back of the property. He's going to give us a wedge. If you look at that northwest corner of his yellow square there, that's a tough spot where it's hard for our snowplow to get by. It's hard for trucks to get by. So shaving off a couple feet for us there too makes this a nice deal in both ways. You can see that it's narrow, right? It's Tremont. It's really narrow.
Right.
We're close. We had a meeting and everybody saw a first draft of this agreement, which is what I think was emailed to you. We'll have a couple tweaks to it, but we look forward to signing this soon with Kevin. The block club was pretty clear that support was conditional on securing leases for these parking spaces. The problem with this property, I will attest, 25 years of problems with this property, part of which was all the cars loading onto Auburn. 4 units is as much as 8 cars, and there was a resident who needed the handicapped space in front. They're not there anymore, so that could go away. But that is part of the problem on Auburn with all these units that don't have a parking associated with them. So Kevin's effort here is going to make a big difference to the whole street and to those of us living right next door. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sounds like you're positively moving forward on the parking, and that's sort of the nature of the neighborhood, isn't it? So
it is.
Yes. So thank you. City planning.
So Maurice Rowland, City Planning. So, of course, we've got existing structures that were probably modified potentially without permits years ago, and now we're left to deal with this situation and try to make it legal. So we understand the concerns about the parking issues here, and we fully support the comments of the Block Club and Mr. Gergonis, that we should get these parking agreements executed to relieve the issues that this problem property has created over the years. And of course, we are also very pleased to see the buildings completely renovated, brought back to use, generating income and taxes for the area, and hopefully not adding a negative effect. I would also say that maybe pass this along to somebody at the city to maybe look at removing that handicap parking space if there is in fact nobody in the area that's using it. That would also free up another parking space. I don't know the process for that, but we can definitely look into that. But we would recommend approval of this project.
Great, thank you, Mr. Rowlands.
I would say contingent on the parking agreements.
Yes, absolutely. All right, board, any questions or comments? All right, and just to support what's already been said by Mr. Rowlands and statements made by Ms. Gergonis and the residents from the area, if we vote to approve this, it will be conditional on submission of those parking agreements with both neighbors and the other moving of the fence, anything that's related in that agreement to the neighbor on the opposite side with the HOA. Those documents would need to be signed and executed and submitted to Ms. Kukla prior to ratification, should we vote to approve this. So with that being said, and no questions or comments from my board, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, Board Member Roca motions to approve the variances requested in this for this project, conditioned upon the receipt by Ms. Kukla of fully executed parking agreements by both the adjoining properties, and I move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Roca. Could I have a second, please?
Board Member Holzer, I second.
Thank you. Ms. Kukla, if you'll call the roll for the vote, please.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Roca?
Yes.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Calendar 22-182 is granted conditionally. We will hold ratification until we receive an executed parking agreement as well as an executed agreement with the HOA. And once we receive those, the board will ratify it and send the appellant a letter.
Madam Chair, I have to say it's great to see everybody working together to come to a mutually agreed resolution in a case like this. So I applaud the developer and the residents for coming up with some creative solutions here. It's nice to see.
And thank you guys very much. Kate O'Neill was hugely pivotal in getting this resolution and getting everything together. So I thank her as well.
We'd love to see when, as Mr. Rowlands said, when all parties work together.
A lot can be achieved.
To achieve a
We're
common
happy
goal.
to.
And
We're happy to.
hopefully this project will alleviate the long-term nuisance to the neighborhood. So we look forward to this coming to fruition. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I believe
Thanks.
our
Happy New
last
Year.
Happy New Year to you too. I believe our last case is 22-115.
All right, we have calendar number 22-115. This is at 1200 West 76th Street. The Shoreway Building LLC owner proposes to erect an additional 10-story apartment building consisting of 73 dwelling units and 183 parking spaces on site of an existing 43 dwelling unit building in a B1 local retail business district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 4. This case was postponed on July 25th at the request of the appellant to allow time for the owner to meet with design review and the community. A second postponement was made on September 26, 2022 to allow time for the project to be reviewed by Landmarks. And finally, a third postponement was made on November 21st due to changes in the site plan. No testimony was taken at that time. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Brown for the oath.
Madam Chair, just let me interrupt real quick. This is an old copy of the variances, and there's actually an additional variance that they are requesting at this point, which is a height variance in the District 3. They are permitted to have a 115-foot tall building, and they are proposing 143. I just wanted to get that on the record that there are actually 4 variances.
And what, again, their actual height, 143, Maurice?
Yes, ma'am, according to the variance that I have.
All right, great. All right. To Ms. Brown for the swearing in.
Okay, I have a question before I swear him in. So with that change that Maurice is just mentioning, was the notice, did the height variance, was it included in the notice?
Yes, ma'am. It was included in the notice. I just pulled the old file from the last time they were supposed to be on the agenda, which was before they had requested the height change.
Thank you for that answer.
Good catch, though. Yeah.
Happy to do the swearing in now. So I'm swearing in the last case of the day to all who are remaining and ready to testify to this. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Please raise your hand, reply I do, state your name and your address, please.
I do. Adam Comer, 1200 West 76th Street.
I do. Bill Naberka, 411 West 58th, Portland, Oregon.
I do. Adam Davenport, City Planning, 601 Lakeside Avenue.
I do. Abby DeMayo, 1253 West 76th Street, Cleveland, Ohio.
I do. Jim Cutrone, 1274 West 76th Street.
I do. William DeMayo, 1253 West 76th.
Anyone else? Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Kukla, have we read the history of the property for this previously?
No, I don't believe we have.
All right, let's do that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property was originally zoned general retail in 1929. It was changed to local retail in 2011. Madam Chair, I think the most important information here is that in calendar number 13-79 in June of 2013, this board granted a variance to change use of the property to apartment units located on an irregular shaped parcel in the local retail business district. Contrary to sections regarding front yard and rear yard, as well as square footage lot coverage. This again was a change of use of an existing 4-story building on the site, which the notes state that it extended from West 76th through West 78th Street. The original use of this building was occupied for warehousing and manufacturing. It was initially identified as the Globe Machine and Stamping Company. And Madam Chair, there is a mention of a parking agreement, or that there is a separate permit required for the construction of a parking lot identified on the site plans. And I believe that's all that's relevant. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, may I ask Liz, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the date. When was the change of use from warehouse to apartments?
That was June 2013.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting area variances from the maximum gross floor area and required rear yard depth regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you. Who's going to be the spokesperson for this case?
If Adam is unable to speak, I'm happy to. My name is Bill Naberka. I'm the architect, one of the architects of the project. And if we can go to the next slide, I think there's a overview of the site. We have a lot of information here. I'm happy to go into whatever depth is requested, but I can kind of give an overview of the project. The project was reviewed by the local and the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. I think there was enthusiastic support for it. The existing Shoreway building, if you look at the portion on the right, the existing Shoreway building is the L-shaped portion there. I think the parking lot that was referenced is the actual site of the addition that we're proposing, which is to the left and is at the termination of West 78th. That's a surface lot right now, and there's a little portion that's in the kind of in the L shape of the Shoreway building. It's a one-story addition. So in the top corner there, you can kind of see a simple massing of the existing Shoreway building, which is a historic four-story structure. The portion in the web of the building is the one-story structure will be removed. And then our proposal is appearing to be freestanding. It is a connected building, a 13-story addition, which comprises 9 stories of residential over 4 stories of structured parking. The structured parking portion does extend to the east and creates a courtyard in the existing Shoreway building. You can go to the next slide, please. Part of obviously the review of the project was the scale of the project, and we are emulating the scale of the Westinghouse complex and using that as sort of a guiding principle for the project, which is a historic warehouse complex, which does mix more vertical and more horizontal buildings. Next slide, please. And now we can kind of get into some renderings of the building. This is from the Edgewater Beach parking lot. Looking back towards the Shoreway complex and the Battery Park Tower. Next slide, please. So the site plan you can see to the left, which is currently the one surface parking lot, is where the addition will take place. The parking entrance will be, and the servicing of the building will be at the end of West 78th. And then we'll be maintaining the entrance through the existing historic Shoreway building, modifying, enlarging that. So we'll have a connection both to the exterior courtyard, as well as a passage back to the new circulation tower for the addition. Next slide, please. It's a rendering of this new courtyard, which will be used by residents. We did have quite a few conversations with the neighborhood, and actually the earliest proposal of the project did not have this courtyard. We understand that there was concerns about the residents in the neighborhood, areas for dog relief. We understood the parking and loading of the building was a concern. So we did modify actually the design of the building based on that input, and provided some of these amenities internal to the building that could be used by the residents. I probably want to go back because I know this is one point in the criteria. One of the modifications to the project, and actually us coming back through the design review process with the additional height request, was due to the fact that we determined there's an existing city sewer line that runs right through the middle of the project. We worked with the city to try to get some resolution to that. The only resolution is to actually relocate that sewer line around the edge of the project, which required quite a bit of redesign. And then the feasibility of the project was compromised, and we sought higher density, which required a small addition to the height for the project. Next slide, please. One of the design aspects of the building is as we set back from the rail line just to the north of the project, for construction purposes, we've introduced some porches at those lower floors of the building. Next slide, please. One of the areas that we reviewed extensively through the design review project is the compatibility of the structure with the existing historic Shoreway building. We are proposing a natural steel finish for the building. Weight is a concern. Obviously, masonry was one of the items that kind of came up as far as the design. Weight is an issue. We have compromised soils underneath the building, so the weight of the structure is an issue. So we determined that we did want to emulate the very kind of simple articulation of the Shoreway building, and we did so with a natural steel finish panel. Next slide, please. And then just some views of the project from the neighborhood. Looking down West 78th, again, that will be the parking entrance and the rear sort of servicing of the building. Next slide, please. And then the view from Father Frascati, kind of judging the scale of the building over the Shoreway from the neighborhood. Next slide, please. This is a view of the building from the Shoreway Drive and the park, as well as sort of a rendered view of that northeast corner. Next slide, please. And some views of rendered views of the building from the neighborhood. The bottom image is actually looking over the rooftop of the universal grinding structure, which is actually adjacent to this building, which is about a 1 acre, 1-story manufacturing building. Next slide, please. And then some rendered views from the north and from the east, which would be the railway frontage. Next slide, please. And then a view from the south, and then kind of a cutaway looking, which would kind of removing the Shoreway building and looking at that east facade. Next slide. I think there's some addendum drawings which we can get into plans if you'd really like to, but I think they just really speak to the composition of the building and not so much the adjustments requested. I'm happy to take any questions that the board might have.
Thank you for that
Madam Chair?
presentation. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. There was another change in the notice of nonconformance. Just for the record, we should state that, and this was posted online and in this, I believe it's called the City Record or the Daily Legal News, as well as defined in the public notice that went out to the neighbors. But the changes, it wasn't just to the height, it was the overall floor area. The original was proposed as 161,312, and it was changed because of the amendments that were made to the building. It was changed to 204,400 square feet. And then the height of the building changed the required rear yard. At the original review, 57-foot rear yard was required, but due to the changes, a 71.5-foot rear yard is required now, as it is again based on the height of the building. That code section says that the height shall not be less than 1/2 of the height of the main building. And again, as was stated earlier, the height of the building was changed to 143 feet, and which triggered the new variance for the overall height. Thank you. Again, that's just for the record. These are the details that, again, have been posted properly in the public record and public notice. Thank you.
Great. Thank
And
you.
Madam Chair, I can add that I'm going to show this on the screen real quick, just so that everybody can see that what Ms. Kukla was talking about. So that, I believe that is the current adjudication.
Okay, so everything was posted current and correct. It's just not entirely reflected in our PowerPoint. Is that right?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
because I grabbed from the old presentation that was postponed.
Right. Okay.
So
And
this should all
Liz,
be accurate.
going back to the rear yard, we had 51 required, and what was the current number? 70?
71.5.
71.5. Okay.
That is the required yard, and the
Oh,
notes
all right.
state that no rear yard is proposed.
Okay. All right. Mr. Nabruka,
May I, Madam Chair, may I ask that a question on that while we're on that point?
sure, go right ahead.
Where does this change show up in terms of what is technically rear yard for this building now?
Adam might want to speak to this. I believe that the rear yard requirement, because of the frontage of the building on 76, is actually the west end of the kind of the pointy end of the pie shape.
Okay. And you don't show it in this model, so maybe Maurice, go to something. What's adjacent to it? What is the next property?
There's actually, so the railroad frontage is kind of indicated there along the north. The universal grinding structure is kind of down at the lower left. So
Yeah.
basically this tapers off to railroad right of way and the
Okay.
parking lot for the universal grinding.
Thank you. That's helpful. Madam Chair, thank you for allowing me.
Certainly, I think that puts things in context a bit more for everyone, so great. Okay, does anyone else from the project team want to make comment? I have Abby. Are you a neighbor?
Yes, I live at 1253 West 76th Street, directly across from the existing Shoreway property.
Okay, would you like to make comment?
Yes, ma'am. First comment is that the announcement says it is a 10-story apartment building. As just noted, it's the new proposal is 13-story apartment building. The developer claims that this has been reviewed by Design Review. Design Review only reviewed the 10-story building, not the 13. This has not been seen by any other review group except this. The reference to the Westinghouse building is the Westinghouse building, as everyone knows, is at the lowest point of the area of the Shoreway. It is at Shoreway level. This property is actually at the apex of that rise up to Edgewater Hill. Anyone familiar with Edgewater Beach knows where the pedestrian tunnel is and that sculpture of sort of that blue and white sculpture. This is at that height. So this would be at the highest point of the entire neighborhood. So comparing it to Westinghouse for the impact on the neighborhood and sightlines is not appropriate. The building itself, I don't know if these design samples are from the 10-story or the 13-story, and would like to have that clarified. In addition, this building, because they found a sewer line, they would like to exceed the allowed zoning. There are no other 10-story buildings in this area. So 10 stories was a lot for our neighborhood to be, to look at, in addition to its dwarfing the Battery Park Tower. But in addition to this, they now want to add an additional 23 feet on top of the allowed zoning. This is what we believe is shouldn't be allowed to compensate them for property they've owned for some time. They should have known about this sewer line. This zoning would be permanent. Those additional floors would be permanent. They would be earning income for rental income on those additional floors permanently. They at some point will recoup their cost, and that will be profit for them. Our neighborhood will always have a now 12-story building completely outside the zoning. This developer owns or has options on multiple pieces of land on that corridor. And we don't believe that they would not come back to ask for 10 and 12, additional 12 stories on additional properties because it's already been allowed. The previous amendments in 2017 for the front and side yards were for an approximately 70-story building with historical preservation. This is a new building, completely modern, almost doubling the size of the original building and still asking for 0 front and side yards. So that it's not relevant to the changes that were made in 2017. So we feel this is very much outside what was even originally. We've only had one set of meetings as a community with the builder, which was back in July when it was a 10-story building and very modern. We weren't thrilled then. This change has come about right before the holidays, and we haven't even had a block club meeting about this. So we request that the additional zoning, the additional approval outside the allowed zoning be not be allowed. And we still have concerns about the building. We're working with the developer, but we'd like to have a legitimate community meeting about these changes. Thank you.
Certainly. All right, I am going to hear from the other neighbors that want to speak, and then we'll
Madam
go.
Chair, can we just clarify something for the
Certainly.
record?
Yeah.
I may have misheard the architect for the appellant, but I have 9 stories of residential over 5 stories of structured parking. So is it 14 stories or 13 stories?
13. So it's 9 over 4, and there was quite a bit of inaccuracy in what was just presented. Would you like me to wait till the end? Is that?
Yes, I'm going to
best?
have the
Okay.
neighbors speak, sir, and then I'll let you go through your
Sure.
punch list of rebuttal.
Happy to.
Is that, Ms. Roca, is that clear now?
Yes, that's clear. I'm just confused, and with all the numbers being thrown around, it's hard
Right,
to keep track.
right. Lots of stuff. Okay. All right. So to our next neighbor, is that Jim or William?
We'll let Jim go next, please.
All right, Jim. Will you state your name again, Jim, for the record before you speak? Do we have Jim?
I think you need to unmute Jim.
If you're on the phone, you hit *6 to unmute yourself.
No, I thought I had unmuted. I'm sorry.
Okay, Jim. All right.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, please state your name before you make your statement.
My name is Jim Catrone, 1274 West 76th Street.
Great.
I've been an advocate for this neighborhood for over 3 decades now, lived here that long. And I've been a participant in BZA hearings and Planning Commission hearings and the Landmarks Commission's hearings. And I'd like to talk about something that Abby touched on, but I think is really a very important issue that seems to have gotten lost in the projects that were done on West 73rd and this one. I think my battery just died on my camera, so I hope you can hear me.
We can still hear you. Go
Okay.
right ahead.
All right. Thank you. If you can go back, and I don't mean go back visually, but just think of the projects that you've already discussed and the elevated views, the aerial views of those projects. Those projects were always outlined in a yellow line demarking a certain area. And I understand that that the Board of Zoning Appeals deals with variances and things that are very specific to a location, the structure of the building, and all of those things. But what I really want to point out, and with all due respect to all of you, I think you do a great job, but I think this is being lost, is that when you grant variances and when the Planning Commission supports a project, or when the other city entities support projects, they're not looking at this in a holistic fashion. What you're doing really when you approve projects like this, you're setting a precedent. And as I said, I'm dovetailing on what Abby said. 78th Street is probably the next large development area in our neighborhood, and it is bounded on either side by residential sites, houses. My house backs up to the lot that's associated with Universal Grinding, and I could imagine that when they decide to give up their property, at least a 4 or 5 story building, could be a 10-story building that's put in there at the back of my property. And the same for houses all along 76th Street that back up to those properties on 78th, and the same on the other side. So the issue is that you're creating a pocket of potentially high-rise structures in a basically home development situation, both old and new, Battery Park and the legacy neighborhoods. And it seems to me that just because certain restrictions by the city allow that kind of development in between these two properties isn't an excuse to ignore those properties. And I think that's what's being done. That's certainly what was done on 73rd Street with the 2 properties that are there. And as we, as a neighborhood, have tried to impress many times at many meetings, is that you really need to look at the effect, the future effect that granting these variances and structures of this size are going to have on the existing neighborhoods. And I think it's unfair because it's going to change the living environment for people in those homes dramatically by setting a precedent that could be implemented all the way down, in this case, 78th Street. So that's what I have to say. And I also hope that you read the information that I sent, the letter that I sent several in, but one of my comments dealt with the questionable use of Corten, coated Corten steel on this building. That coating is not going to stay on there for very long. And Corten is meant to be, is in fact a weathering steel, and it's meant to be purplish red. And you're going to have, wherever the coating is lost, you're going to have rusted looking steel. And if those coatings that are put on at the factory can't be reproduced out in the field. And once steel starts to weather, it's almost impossible to keep it from continuing to corrode underneath any coating that you put on it, frankly. I have professional experience in this, so but I hope you read read my letter and the detailed information there. So thank you for allowing me to speak, and I appreciate your patience.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next, I believe we have William.
Yes, good morning. It's William DeMayo, 1253 West 76th Street. I'm Abby's husband. So I obviously agree with everything that she said. And I would like to add that if this is approved, I'd like to have some conditions on the approval, such as that address the items that we've been bringing up. One of them would be to have the deliveries taking place off of someplace other than West 76th Street in front of our houses, because we're directly across the street. And that road's been narrowed down to one lane because they the city gave them the other half of the road when they converted this to an apartment building. Next would be to take that courtyard. I have no idea if it's available to the public or not, but it should be, because we were talking about that was in response to our complaints about their dog waste being distributed through our neighborhood. So I mean, they come to my front yard, I like to go to their front yard. And other conditions to take any available space that they have that could be covered with grass, and get it covered with grass and accessible to people walking dogs. Next one would be, let's see, the number of parking spaces sounds pretty good. 183 spaces for 116 units, 1.57 per unit. If they could do anything to get more of their cars into those spaces, such as lowering the amount of parking charge fee that they charge for that, possibly even free, as being a condition for this, to encourage their tenants to use those spaces. And the other thing is the rooftop. The current Shoreway building uses their rooftop in the summer for entertainment functions that play very loud. I guess music is what it is. And it's very loud, and it's very annoying to those of us who have to put up with it during the time that those events go on. I think maybe the easiest thing to do would be to just a condition that prohibits resident and guest access to the rooftop. So I think those are the main points that I wanted to add to what's been described so far by my neighbors, Abby and Jim. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any other neighbors? All right. So we'll go back to the project team. And if you would like to, if you would please be succinct and brief about your rebuttal, and try and target your comments to the variances that are at hand.
This is Adam Comer. I represent the property owner. Just make a couple comments, and then I'll let Mr. Naburka continue also. So I know that Mr. Mayo mentioned some discrepancies in the actual number of stories that we're requesting. We did have 12 stories, is what we went through through the design review process with the Landmarks Commission. The additional story does not change the height that we're requesting. It's still that 143 feet, obviously. So that has never changed. We just kind of adjusted some of the project detail, and really what drove that was actually to add an additional floor of parking and not an additional floor of residential necessarily. And again, that was to kind of in response to a lot of the comments that you just heard some of the neighbors make towards parking throughout the neighborhood and things like that. Additionally, to the comment on the loading dock and things of that nature being moved to 78th as opposed to in front of the existing building on 76th. We did some redesign of the project specifically in response to that as well, so that all of the loading would be done on 78th to kind of give relief on 76th for the neighborhood also.
Thank you, Adam. I'll just follow up with one thing, which I think is the most important aspect, which that this project was actually approved by the Gordon Square Design Review Commission and the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. So this was extensively reviewed in its current configuration with the images that we presented today and the drawings we presented today, and unanimously approved by the Cleveland Landmarks Commission, including support of all required variances.
Okay. I'm just looking over the notes that I've written as to the issues that the neighbors have cited. That covers the parking, the height of the building, the deliveries. If you could please speak to public use of the courtyard and any green space surrounding the building, and also the intent of use for the rooftop and hours that it might be used.
So the intent for the courtyard itself, while the intent would be for it to be used by residents. We do hope to, in our existing building, we have a retail piece that's currently occupied by Good Company. There are plans to potentially, look at other retail options to kind of help activate that street front and engage with the neighborhood and engage with neighbors. So while the courtyard, the intent is for it to be used by residents of the building, that's not to say that we wouldn't consider, events or things of that nature that would bring the neighborhood in as well. As far as the rooftop of the new building would likely not be used for events or anything of that nature. The existing rooftop of the Shoreway building will remain for the most part as is, and would be sort of used as it's been used to date, with maybe one or two events throughout the summer months, but certainly not not overwhelming.
And I should add, Adam, to kind of follow up on that. One of the main aspects of the project, and it's a little hard to kind of walk through this quickly and thoroughly at the same time, is above the structured parking, kind of in that courtyard that we're creating, is a new amenity deck for the residents, which will be shared by the existing building and the new building. We're anticipating that most of the sort of social activity in the building is actually down at that level, which should relieve some of those neighborhood concerns about the rooftop currently used, which is right adjacent to those residential structures. The only other thing I guess I'd like to touch on, just because it was brought up, is this idea of precedent. And it's tricky. I understand the residents' concerns. I deal with this extensively. The progress of cities is always a kind of a tricky thing when you're balancing existing and future residents' needs. I would kind of point to the context of this proposal, which is historic warehouse structures, which are significantly larger than any of the structures, the residential structures, as well as universal grinding, which again is over an acre of rooftop surface. So this proposal is nestled into these very large structures, sheltered away from the residential, the small single-family residences. And, I guess the only thing I can speak to is that this is an extensive process to get a project like this reviewed and approved. There is a design review component which is required. I can't speak to how this might be applied to any future sites in the city. All I can say is that each site will have to be reviewed individually, so that I don't necessarily agree that we are setting some watermark that will then be used in the future. Each one will be reviewed through a very scrupulous process, which we have gone through.
Thank you. All right. Adam Davenport, City Planning, would you like to make a statement?
I would. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
It's been a while since I've been on one of these calls, so I'll try to keep it succinct though. In short, City Planning is very supportive of this project. This is one of the first state historic tax credit projects in the Detroit Shoreway neighborhood in 2013. The site is pretty well isolated in a lot of respects, I feel like, at the end of 78th Street. And kind of what better spot in the neighborhood than staring at the lake and downtown to the east to put a high-rise residential structure. We feel this is very much akin to some of the other probably development proposals we'll see for the old industrial area north of Lake Avenue. We saw a recent proposal that passed the Planning Commission's design review process early in 2022 for 8400 Lake. I suspect over time, we're going to see more of these proposals for the legacy industrial area that's kind of north of 78th Street Studios over there. I think we've worked with the project team to resolve a couple of the different traffic issues cited by some neighbors, including working on like a four-way stop at 76th and Battery Park Avenue. I think there's also some public right-of-way constraints, like the dog relief areas that the developer should work on as well. But overall, we're very supportive of this project going here. The original proposal met the height restriction before the project team came to us with the problem of the sewer. I think it's that's an interesting problem to try and solve for. I think in this case we are happy to support a variance because of this existing utility challenge. And then speaking to the rear yard situation that came up before, we are actually revising the code to there's legislation in council right now, or will be in early January, to revise this for multifamily and local retail and above districts, because required rear yards for multifamily buildings in all likelihood don't make much sense. They are a fire safety issue for single family and duplex housing, so that the fire department can reach at a 45-degree angle the second story of those houses. But since multifamily buildings have fire rated and other fire code required specifications for fire retardant devices, it in all likelihood doesn't make sense. So you probably won't see this issue moving forward. So we're happy to support that variance as well. I'm also happy to talk more about how we see this project in the neighborhood context in Detroit Shoreway specifically as well, if you'd like, but I'll leave it at that for right now. Thank you.
I would, if you could, Adam, give us your perspective on the process and the reviews that this project went through with the various entities that are involved in reviewing such things.
And the community.
And the community.
Sure. So for my interaction with it, I don't have kind of full interaction with it because my colleagues in the Landmarks Commission handle most of the design review process on their side. So this is because of the landmarked parcel that the Shoreway building is and received the historic tax credits for. They reviewed this. So normally this would be before the Planning Commission, just as a general housing project, but because this specific parcel is landmarked, that's why it's before the Landmarks Commission. I think my interaction of this project began in the summertime. I think they had some of their first meetings in late July, early August. And that was for the original proposal. They came back, I think, around late October with the amended height structure, and then went through both the local Gordon Square, Clifton West local landmarks committee, and then the full commission as well. There was a lot of discussion about the height on those calls. There was probably more discussion about the actual design and the actual rooftop design of the Landmarks Commission, in my opinion. but the hype came up quite a bit. But the majority of the members, to my memory, supported this because of the location nearest to Edgewater Park, nearest looking at the lake, kind of at the end of 78th Street. So that's I don't know if I want to characterize it further because it's just kind of my opinion as to how those meetings took place, but maybe if there's further want for that characterization, we should include Carl Brunges on the call or something. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, board, any questions or comments?
I have something, Madam Chair, just for Mr. Davenport and the architect. So I just want to ask and clarify, as we're on the discussion point of what landmarks reviews versus what Board of Zoning Appeals reviews, materiality, there was some commentary from the residents about materials and metal, or excuse me, steel being used in the project. I just want to clarify, and whoever can answer this, that materiality is for landmarks and design review, and that those elements were in fact reviewed by those bodies, and that materiality is not before us today.
Correct. Yeah, yes, those were reviewed in detail.
It is my understanding that both were approved, both design review and landmarks approved on materiality as well.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
And we have on the screen now a statement from Carl Brunges from Cleveland Landmarks. Liz, would you go ahead and read that for us?
Sure. The Cleveland Landmarks Commission approved the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness for the Shoreway Tower addition on November 11th, 2022. This was issued with the condition that they would work with the city planning staff for additional traffic study concerns, a recommendation to study the roof deck configuration. The commission added support for the approval of the 3 identified variances required for the project. This was sent to us this morning from Carl Brunges. Thank you.
Who is now representing the Landmarks Commission.
That's correct.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I just want to also point out, I see someone put in the chat that there was a discrepancy with the 3 variances. And I did speak with Mr. Brunges this morning. They recommended approval of all 4 variances, including the height change.
Thank you. Ms. Kukla, do we have any statement from Councilwoman Spencer?
I don't believe we do. I haven't seen anything. I don't see anything in the file.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Keep that photo, actually. Is this the entrance to the new building? How do guests get to the new building? And are guests parking factored into, the spaces that you have identified with the parking structure?
I'm happy to field that one. This is a view of the east elevation of the existing Shoreway building, which does have the current entrance. That will be the primary entrance for the building. As far as guest parking is concerned, there is some street parking there, but also the owners have a surface lot just on the other side of the Tamura structure. So below the triangle, there's the Tamura building right there, and then this parking, at the surface parking lot there, which is accessed off West 76th Street, is also available and owned by the same company group.
Can you, I'm sorry, I'm not following where that parking is off of 76.
I was
Got you.
Yeah, Maurice, could you highlight that area for us, please?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Is everyone clear on that surface parking area now then?
I believe it's right here, right?
Yes, correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Thank you for identifying that. Okay. Any other comments or questions, board? I believe everything has been pretty thoroughly unpacked. We've heard from the neighbors and their concerns. We've had statements in response to those concerns. We've heard from city planning on the process that this project has gone through in terms of design review, review by those that are experts in the field of construction and materials. Thank you to Ms. Roca for that question. And also to Ms. Brown for her question on the parking situation.
Madam Chair, I have one more.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I
as
also
you
have
were-
one too when Board Member Brown is finished.
Excellent.
I do apologize. This, I believe.
That's fine. Ms. Brown, you go ahead.
Well, I think this may have been answered, but I just want to confirm. So on the proposed new building rooftop, it's not communal. It's an apartment with a deck for whoever lives on that level.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And then this is
Excellent clarification on the use of that rooftop. All right, Ms. Roca.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. We heard from, I believe, the developer's representative on the moving of the loading dock to West 78th Street, which was a concern for some of the residents, and I can see why. I just want to confirm with either the architect or the developer's representative that is in fact in the plans.
Yes, it is. You can kind of see the area dotted in red down there at the end of West 78th. That will be a loading area into the direct access into the back of the building.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, excellent point of clarification. Is there anything else? Board, questions, comments? All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, Board Member Roca would like to motion to approve the variances related to this project as stated in the record. We've heard extensive testimony from the appellant's architect as well as the agent for the developer of this project as to the height, as to the structured parking. We have received clarification on the stories of the building. Excuse me. The entrance for ingress and egress of the building, as well as the movement of the loading dock from West 76 to West 78th Street. We have heard testimony from both those individuals on the use of the rooftop. And we've also heard extensive testimony, and we thank the residents who have testified today of their concerns, of which the developer and architect have addressed. We have clarified for the record that the materiality concerns raised today are issues for design review and landmarks. They have appropriate jurisdiction over those items, and they have approved materiality. With all that said, I move to approve the variances related to, or as stated in the record, and I will open to the floor to the rest of the board.
Is there any other comment or discussion on this motion, board? Hearing none, I'll take a second, please.
Board Member Holzer, I second.
Thank you. Ms. Kukla, if you'll call the roll for the vote.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Holzer? Ms. Roca?
Yes.
Ms. Vate?
Yes.
Calendar 22-115 is granted. It'll be ratified next Monday, and we will send the appellant a letter.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to
Thank
you.
you very
too.
much. Happy New Year, everybody.
All right. Moving on to old business. That was our last full case. We have number 1 through 9 without objection, board.
Without objection.
Without objection.
That's
Ms.
it.
Brown?
Wow, that was a long one.
Ms. Brown?
No objection.
Great,
Oh.
thank you. All right. That concludes our first meeting of 2023. Thank you all. Ms. Roca, thank you for unpacking the that last case in your motion.
Happy to help.
One quick announcement. There is a good chance that we will be moving to a hybrid fashion for these meetings soon, very soon. I don't have an exact date yet, but it could be sometime this month. I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. So that would mean that we'd be meeting back in room 514, but there will also be the meetings will continue to be live streamed on YouTube. And then there would still be a WebEx component for those that could not make it to the meeting itself, the physical meeting.
But that means you expect us to attend.
I believe that is the expectation, but not being the director, I don't want to speak for her, but I think I've heard that, but I don't know if that's the official word.
I was told that by the director. So if Maurice, you can ask the director.
Yeah, as we get closer to the actual date, we'll have all that stuff. I just wanted to give everyone a heads up that it's coming. That's all.
Maurice, what is closer to the date? I mean, what kind of time period are we talking about?
I really think it's going to be sometime this month. I don't think it'll be the next meeting, but maybe the meeting out.
No, we won't be able to do that until February.
Yeah, so probably like oh, you don't think it'll be this month?
No, I have the agendas already complete for, I believe, through January 30th. So
yeah, so I'm not, again, I don't know the exact date. I had heard a rumor that the Planning Commission may be going hybrid very soon, sooner than us. But again, I just really wanted to give everybody a heads up, knowing that that is coming soon.
Hey, Maurice, it shouldn't be a rumor. There should really be information and discussion.
Well, let's put it this way. I can't confirm or deny at this point.
Thank you, though. I appreciate
it's more than a rumor, but I cannot confirm or deny. But just in case you have to adjust your schedules,
plan your wardrobe.
We will miss those beautiful backgrounds.
I'll find out for you, board members. I will get the final date, or I'll talk to the director to find out exactly when she's
I'm sure
expecting.
we're all just coming back from the holiday. I'm sure that we'll get an update.
Yep. Thank you.
I just didn't want everybody to be. I didn't want you to be blindsided.
Right.
Yeah, we're not going to spring it on you in 1 week. We'll give you, we'll give you a couple of weeks or even more.
And let's review how we typically, because everybody except Kelly and I are new since we've gone virtual. So we'll want to review how we typically meet beforehand and move into the
that's right.
meeting and, what our protocol typically is, so everybody knows how we typically handle things when we're not virtual. So
right, I'll send out an email about that.
Okay. And Adam, I see you're still on. I think I need to call you and discuss something. So
Sure.
Are you in the office this afternoon?
We're all back in.
All right, awesome. I'll give you a buzz in a little while then. All right.